Exercise 4.5. The following information relates to Randy stores for July 2025. Required. 4.5.1. Complete the bank account for July 2025 by recording additional entries directly into the account. Balance the bank account on 31 July 2025. 4.5.3. Prepare the bank reconciliation statement on 31 July 2025. You must calculate the balance of the bank statement as a balancing figure. Information A. The following information appears on the bank reconciliation statement on 30 June. I'm giving you your opening balance, your outstanding deposits, your outstanding EFTs, so we can now work out our balance according to bank account. It's simply our balancing figure. We're going to say 17,000 plus 120,000 deposit plus 56,000 deposit minus 75,000 outstanding EFT and minus the last 83,000 outstanding EFT, and then we get an answer of 35,000. So your opening bank balance is 35,000 that you can go put on 1st July in your bank ledger account so long. Then B, the following provisional totals appeared on 31 July in the subsidiary journals before the bank statement for July was generated by the bank. So our provisional totals for CRJ is 132,000. You can go into that. And our provisional total for CPJ is 431,000. You can go into that. Then C. The bank statement for July shows the following entries that do not appear in the cash journals for July. We have a deposit of 65,000, EFT 870 of 57,000, debit order to rented for rental expense. This debit order is twice, 16,000 each. EFT 871 for 83,000, interest on current account for 350, bank charges 780, debit order for property taxes 13,000, and a direct deposit of 8,500. Then all these bulletins underneath will give you more information about this table to see whether we're going to fix it in our CPJ, in our CRJ, or in our bank reconciliation statement. But we will read each one entry by entry when we get to our answer sheet on the next page. And then E, the following entries appeared in the cash journals but not on the bank statement. So we have an outstanding EFT of 13,000 Rand that will go to our bank reconciliation statement, and we have an outstanding deposit of 36,000 that will go to our bank reconciliation statement. We've already completed our opening balance for our bank account. It was 35,000. Just a reminder, it was your balancing figure of your previous month's bank reconciliation statement. The bank account figure was 35,000, which you can now put as your opening balance in your bank account. You can also already go and enter your preliminary totals. In your CRJ journal is 132,000, and your preliminary totals in your CPJ journal is 431,000. If you go back to your bank statement for July given under number C, we are starting with a deposit of 65,000 Rand. Just under the table is an instruction. It says the deposit of 56,000 Rand appears incorrectly as 65,000 Rand on the bank statement. The deposit relates to cash sales and must be corrected in the books of the entity. So we know sales goes to our CRJ. We are going to take the difference. 65,000 minus 56,000 is 9,000. So we still need to go and record 9,000 Rand sales into our CRJ. The next transaction under additional information number C is the EFT 870 for 57,000. If we read further on, it says The amount of EFT 870, according to the CPJ of the entity, is correct. So no error took place in our CPJ. But the bank will correct the error on the next bank statement. So the error took place on the bank statement, so we're going to go to our bank reconciliation statement to fix it. So we are going to say debit faulty EFT 870 in our bank reconciliation statement, and we're going to say in brackets 75,000 minus 57,000 to give you 18,000. So your description is debit faulty EFT 870. It involved a calculation. The amount was incorrect, so the difference between 75 and 57 gives me 18,000 in the debit column. The next transaction is 2 debit orders for rent expense, 16,000 that went off twice. If we go read the description, it says the debit order for rent was incorrectly considered twice by the bank. They will correct the error on the next bank statement. So this will involve 2 transactions. We first have to go and record the debit order in our CPJ. So we will say rent expense, 16,000 in my CPJ. But then because the bank made an error, we're going to say credit the faulty debit order, 16,000 in my bank reconciliation statement. The next entry is EFT 871 for 83,000. Do you see at additional information A, EFT 871 was outstanding last month, so now it has appeared, so you just tick, it's now been rectified. The next entry is interest on current account, 350 Rand. Now, interest on current account is a favorable interest, so that will be recorded in our cash receipts journal. So you're going to say interest on current account, 350 Rand on the debit side of your bank account. The next entry is bank charges, 780 Rand. Bank charges is an expense, so it goes to my CPJ. On the credit side of my bank account, 780. Then I've got a debit order for property taxes, 13,000. That is an expense called rates and taxes, which goes to my CPJ journal, and it will be on the credit side of my bank, 13,000. And then I have a direct deposit, 8,500 Rand. Right at the bottom, it gives us further information. It says the direct deposit of 8,500 Rand was made by a debtor for settling his account. So when a debtor settles his account, I'm receiving money in my bank account, so it goes to my cash receipts journal. My details will be debtor's control, and it's 8,500 Rand in bank. Now we just simply need to go and record any outstanding deposits and outstanding EFTs. If you read information number E, we had an outstanding EFT number 933 for 13,000. So you're going to say debit outstanding EFT number 933 for 13,000. And then we also have an outstanding deposit of 36,000 dated 31 July. So we're going to credit outstanding deposits, 36,000. I'm just quickly moving everything one step down. I started one line too early. I forgot about my opening balance as the bank statement. Okay, so now let's go total our bank account In this exercise, our credit side is bigger than our debit side. Our credit side totals to 580780. We know the debit side must also add up to 580780. So we will have a balance carried forward on the debit side, which means our opening bank balance will be on the credit side. So our balance carried forward or carried down is 395930. That is the same balance that we will have on the 1st of August. And this is the balance that you will put in your bank reconciliation statement. As you can see, it is a credit balance according to bank account. So you're going to say credit balance according to bank account. 395930. Now we're going to add up our credit side of our bank reconciliation statement to give us a total of 447930. We know the debit side must also equal to 447930. So our opening balance for my bank statement will be my balancing figure. So if you say 447930 and you minus 18,000 and you minus 13,000, you get 416930. That will be your balance according to your bank statement, and in this case it was a debit balance according to my bank statement, and this is just once again your balancing figure. So I'm just making a note here for you that this 416930 is your balancing figure. You added up your credit side, you got a total. That total must be the same as your debit side, and when you take 13 and 18,000 away from that total, 416930 is then what remains, and that is your balancing figure. Exercise 4.6. The information below was obtained from the books of Jariah stores. The accountant posted the cash journals to the bank account before the bank statement was received from the bank. He calculated a provisional bank balance on 31 October 2025. Required 4.6.1. Why is it important to frequently prepare a bank reconciliation statement? 4.6.2. A proof of an electronic funds transfer was received from the debtor as payment of his account. When must the receipt be recorded in the cash receipts journal? 4.6.3. An electronic funds transfer as payment to a creditor was made and the proof of payment was sent to the creditor. When will the entry for the payment be recorded in the cash payments journal? 4.6.4. Complete the bank account in the general ledger by recording the applicable information directly in the bank account. The provisional and the closing balances must be calculated. 4.6.5. Prepare the bank reconciliation statement for October 2025. Then additional information. Number 1, our bank reconciliation statement for September. Outstanding deposit, outstanding EFTs 440, 441 and 442. Additional information number 2. The latest electronic bank statement downloaded from ABSA showed a favorable balance of 8,500 Rand. So you can go and record that opening balance in your bank reconciliation statement for October 2025. A comparison of the bank statement for October and the cash journals for October showed the following differences. 3.1. Entries and differences that appear on the bank statement but not in the cash journals for October. A deposit of 8,200 Rand on the 2nd made by the entity with regard to cash sales. Direct deposit of 16,500 made in relation to rent. direct deposit of 40,000 made by the owner to increase her capital contribution, direct deposit by FNB of 15,125 with regard to a fixed deposit that has matured, as well as the last 2 months' interest at 5% per year. E, the bank statement shows an incorrect deposit of 18,600 Rand made on 21 October. The correct amount appears in the cash receipts journal as 16,800. A debit order of 12,400 Rand for the payment of the final installment on a vehicle that was purchased on credit. EFT 441 for 3760 relating to packaging material purchased, as well as EFT 442 for 8,200 Rand with regards to stationery paid. EFT 458 for 6029 made for inventory. The amount of the EFT was incorrectly recorded in the cash payments journal as 6092. Bank fees with regard to service fees 500, EFT costs 350, and interest on overdraft account 480 Rand. The bank shows an ATM withdrawal for wages as 6,200 Rand. The correct amount on the ATM slip appears in the cash payments journal as 2,600 Rand. 3.2. Entries and differences that appear in the cash journals but not on the bank statement. A, EFT 467 for 3,100 Rand with regard to repairs. B, EFT 468 for 6,500 Rand with regards to advertisements. And C, a deposit of 1360 on 29 October relating to cash sales. Number 4, EFT 440 for 4,100 Rand was drawn on 26 April 2025 with regards to repairs to the building. It was determined that the bank account number of the entity who did the repairs changed, and thus the payment could not go through. EFT 440 must be cancelled and replaced by EFT 469 for a transfer to the new correct bank account number. And then number 5, the provisional and closing balance of the bank account must be calculated as the balancing figures. 4.6.1. Why is it important to frequently prepare a bank reconciliation statement? It is important as it serves as an internal control measure and indicates errors and omissions made by the company or the bank so that fraud can be prevented and checks can be made on whether all errors have indeed been corrected and all transactions have been recorded. 4.6.2. A proof of an electronic funds transfer was received from a debtor as payment of his account. When must the receipt be recorded in the cash receipts journal? It is very important for internal control processes that the entry of an electronic receipt is only recorded into the CRJ when the amount appears on the bank statement. In this way, proof of payment can be prevented from being faked and fraud committed. 4.6.3. An electronic fund transfer as payment to a creditor was made, and the proof of payment was sent to the creditor. When will the entry for the payment be recorded in the cash payments journal? It is important that the bank balance in the company's books shows the amount available to make further payments with. For this reason, it is critical that all electronic payments made by the business must be recorded in the CPJ immediately so that the bank balance will already have been reduced by the amount. Now let's continue with exercise 4.6, where we're going to complete the bank account and the bank reconciliation statement for October 2025. For teaching purposes, I've merged the two answer sheets onto one page because as I read the information, I'm going to enter it either in my bank account or either in my bank reconciliation statement, and I don't want to page back and forth the whole time. So, under additional information 1, we have been given a bank reconciliation statement for September. Then number 2, it says we have a favorable balance of 8,500 Rand on 31 October. So we know a favorable bank balance will go to our bank reconciliation statement as a credit balance according to bank statement. And in the credit column, we're going to enter 8,500 Rand. Information number 3. Entries and differences that appear on the bank statement but not in the cash journals. So number A deposit of 8,200 Rand on the 2nd of October made by the entity with regard to cash sales. If you go up to information number 1, we had an outstanding deposit of 8,200. We have now recorded that, so that error has been rectified, so we can just tick it. Then B, a direct deposit of 16,500 Rand made in relation to rental. We know rent income goes to our CRJ, so we're going to go to our bank account. On the debit side, we're going to say rent income, and we're going to enter 16,500 Rand. Then C, a direct deposit of 40,000 Rand made by the owner to increase her capital. So capital contributions is also an income. It goes to our cash receipts journal, and it will go on the debit side of our bank account. So we're going to say capital, 40,000. Then number D. The direct deposit by FNB of 15,125 Rand with regard to a fixed deposit that has matured, as well as the last 2 months' interest at 5% per year. So when we receive a fixed deposit that has matured, we are receiving money into our bank account, so it will go on the debit side of bank, and we are also receiving the last 2 months' interest, so it will involve a calculation. We are going to say, interest on fixed deposit, you take your fixed deposit amount, you times it by the number of months times the interest rate. In this case, they've only given us the total. They are telling us that 15,125 is our interest on our fixed deposit plus our fixed deposit. Since we don't know the fixed deposit, we're going to call that X. Then we're going to put it into a mathematical equation to solve for X. So X times 2 over 12 times 5% plus X gives me 15,125, and if I solve for X, I get 15,000. So in other words, my fixed deposit is 15,000, and my interest on my fixed deposit was 125 Rand. The difference between 15,125 and 15,000. So I'm first going to say on the debit side of my bank account, fixed deposit FNB 15,000, and then I'm going to say interest on fixed deposit 125 Rand. And in blue, I've shown you the calculation of how we got to our interest and our fixed deposit calculation. Then number E. The bank statement shows an incorrect deposit of 18,600 Rand made on 21 October. The correct amount appears in the cash receipts journal as 16,800 Rand. So in other words, in this scenario, we did not make an error in our journals. The error came from our bank statement, which means we need to rectify our bank reconciliation statement. So we're going to say debit faulty deposit. In brackets, we are going to say 18,600 Rand minus 16,800 Rand. So I'll put that onto in brackets. And then the difference is 1,800 Rand in the debit column. Now we have fixed that faulty deposit. Then number F. A debit order of 12,400 Rand for the payment of our final installment on a vehicle that was purchased on credit. So we know debit orders are recorded in our cash payments journal. This is our final installment on a car that we bought on credit. So we are going to say our details will be creditors control, 12,400 in our credit side of our ledger account. Also on the credit side, we're going to have our opening balance, but we will not be able to fill the amount in yet because it will be our balancing figure as we read in number 5 of our information. They said our balance for our bank as well as our balance for our bank statement at the end of the month is all our balancing figures. Then number G. EFT 441 for 3760 relating to packaging material purchased as well as EFT 442 for 8,400 Rand with regard to stationery paid. If you go to information number 1, we had 2 outstanding EFTs, 441 and 442. G is basically telling us that these outstanding EFTs have now been paid, so you simply just tick it. It's now been fixed. It was an error last month that we have now recorded, and we have now fixed it. So we're not going to put it anywhere else on our answer sheet because it's just an error from last month that we notified the bank of, and the bank has now come and fixed that. Then H. EFT 458 for 6,029 Rand made for inventory. The amount of the EFT was incorrectly recorded in the cash payments journal as 6092. So we have made an error in our journal, so that means we need to fix our bank account. The error was made in our CPJ journal. Instead of paying 6,029 Rand, we paid 6,092 Rand. So we have to make an error correction. The difference of 6092 minus 6029 is 63 Rand. Because we paid 63 Rand too much, we need to use our opposite journal to fix it. So our opposite journal of our CPJ is our CRJ journal, and we are going to say inventory EFT 458 corrected 63 Rand, and at the bottom I've showed the calculation. How did we get to 63? It's 6092 minus 6029. That difference is 63. Then I. Bank fees with regard to service fees 500 Rand and EFT costs 350 Rand. So we know those two fees are called bank charges. Bank charges is an expense that will go to our CPJ journal, and we take the total through to our CPJ. So we are going to say bank charges. There was a calculation. It is 500 plus 350, which gives you 850 Rand. So you can just put that calculation in brackets. But then if we read further on, it says, and we also paid interest on overdraft 480 Rand. So instead of working out the interest on overdraft, they gave us the answer. So we're just going to say interest on overdraft is an expense that goes to our CPJ. So it will go on the credit side of our bank account, and it is 480 Rand. Then J. The bank statement shows an ATM withdrawal for wages as 6,200 Rand. The correct amount on the ATM slips appears in the cash payments journal as 2,600. So in other words, no error was made in our journals. The error was made on the slip, so the bank statement needs to be fixed. So we need to go fix that error in our bank reconciliation statement. So we are going to say credit faulty ATM withdrawal. In brackets, you're going to say 6,200 minus 2,600, and that difference is 3,600 in the credit column. Our next transaction, 3.2. Entries and differences that appear in the cash journals but not on the bank statement. So the first is 2 EFTs. A is EFT 673 and B is EFT 678. One is for repairs and one is for advertising. So we have outstanding EFTs. So we are going to say debit outstanding EFTs, number 467 and number 468. 467 is 3,100 in the debit column, and 468 is 6,500 in the debit column. We have not paid these EFTs. They are still outstanding, so we need to go make the bank aware of it. So that's why we're recording it into our bank recon statement. Then also, if you read number C, there's also an outstanding deposit for cash sales of 1350. So we are going to credit outstanding deposits, and in the credit column, we are going to say 1350. Then number 4, the last entry, EFT 440 for 4,100 Rand was drawn on the 26th of April with regard to repairs to the building. It was determined that the bank account number of the entity who did the repairs changed, and thus the payment could not go through. EFT 440 must be cancelled and replaced by EFT 679 for transfer to the new correct bank account. So if we cancel a previous EFT, we're going to use our CRJ journal. So we're going to say repairs, EFT 440 cancelled in the debit side of bank. The amount is 4,100 Rand. Now we've fixed the previous error, but we're not done. Now we have to go and record that payment. So in our CPJ, we are going to enter 4,100 Rand. Our details is repairs. In brackets, you are going to say EFT 469 issued, 4,100 Rand. Because we are issuing a new EFT, we are also going to go to our bank reconciliation statement. Under debit outstanding EFTs, we're going to say number 469 is still outstanding, 4,100 in the debit column. Now we have entered all our entries, and if you read number 5, it told you that your provisional and closing balances of your bank account will all be our balancing figures. So in other words, we have to first complete our bank reconciliation statement for October so that we can get our bank account balance, and once we've got that balance, we can go and enter it into our bank account so that we can work backwards to get our preliminary opening balance. So let's go do that. So if we add up our debit column, we get a total of 15,500 Rand. We know that our credit column must also equal 15,500 Rand. But if we say 15,500 and we subtract 3,600 and 1,350 and 8,500, we have a shortfall of 2,050 on the credit side, and that is called our credit balance according to bank account, our balancing figure that they mentioned in number 5. Now that we know that it's a credit balance according to bank account, we are going to go to our bank account, so we know that it's a credit balance, so our balance carried over will be on the credit side. November the 1st, 2,050. So on the debit side of our bank account, we're going to say 2,050, our balance carried over. And now we can go add up our debit column. If you do that, you get 77,838 as your total. We know our credit column must then also equal to 77,838. So our shortfall on the credit side will be our preliminary opening bank balance, which is 60,008. And it's got a star. All the stars means it was a balancing figure to get to that account. Now we have completed exercise 4.6.